Hey everybody, welcome to the Action Hour. I come to you every Saturday at 10 o'clock. Today I have two amazing guests that created the most incredible movie about the monkeys in labs at UCLA, and I want you to meet them right now.
Hi.
Hey there, I'm David.
And I'm Cory. So I think we're going to talk about our movie today.
Are we
16 Monkeys.
There we go.
I can't.
Let's go.
Now I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what happened there for a moment. Cory, would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Cory Mac, and I'm an organizer for Progress for Science, and I work with David on Art for Animals' sake as well. Progress for Science is an anti-vivisection group. We're against animal experimentation, and we're local, and we're focused mostly on what happens at UCLA.
Fantastic. And now, David, will you introduce yourself, please?
I will. Hi, my name's David Walega. I'm an artist. I started Art for Animals' sake probably about 9 years now, which was a long time ago, where we teach compassion for animals through art projects. And so Cory and I have been teaching classes mainly in LA, and Cory has been going weekly, except for during this virus, for 5 years, teaching folks that are transitioning into permanent housing at Skid Row Housing Trust.
Wow.
Besides working on education and trying to teach people kindness and compassion for all different sorts of animals in different situations, we collaborate quite a bit on different actions and different projects that try to combine action-oriented work with art. So hopefully this video is just the start of a series of videos, and just to get people to realize what's going on and realize what's happening right in front of them, and maybe not be able to, they might not know it's actually happening right next door. We would like to shine the light on some of the abuses that animals go through on a daily basis. So.
And before we go on to that, you did want to mention Reagan Russell, so I'm going to go ahead and put the focus on you right now. Go ahead.
I think we were all saddened by the death of Reagan Russell yesterday at Toronto Pig Save. It's always sad when somebody's at a peaceful protest and gets hurt. And she was killed by one of the 18-wheelers that was transporting pigs to a slaughterhouse. The Save movement is one that is built on peace and love, and just being there to see the animals go off to slaughter just so they are not dying in a vacuum. And so a lot of people that we know and a lot of us knew Reagan Russell, and so we just feel I just wanted to put it out there in this time of great turmoil that that one single individual had a very big impact, and hopefully she's not forgotten. So in light of a lot of people that have lost their lives doing great work, Reagan Russell was one of them. So I just wanted to make sure we got that out before we dove into the video.
Thank you. Cory, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I think this is interesting. Well, tragic, of course, but it happens it happened right before Canada is putting in a huge ag law in place, and protests such as the Save movements are going to be illegal. So we've lost a voice in losing Reagan, and we're losing the ability to be a voice for those animals in slaughterhouses in Canada. So this is a critical time. We need, obviously in Canada, they need to push back hard on this.
Yeah. Cory, can you just tell us how you got involved in activism? You've been an activist for such a long time. Well, you started when you were super young, but you've been
actually, I haven't been an activist for animals that long. I mean, I'm a boomer, So I did some activism in the Vietnam War and throughout the years. I had never been an organizer, though I had participated in producing materials for demos and protests before. But it was moving to LA that 9 years ago, I think, that I became involved in the animal rights movement. And pretty quickly after I arrived, I think maybe a year after I arrived, Carol Glasser, who is the founder of Progress for Science, asked me if I wanted to join the group. And that was, it was a good, a big honor for me for her to ask me. And that happened at a World Week for Animals in Lab protest at UCLA. So I've been, that's my main form of activism right now, is working with Progress for Science, but I'm also involved in several other campaigns.
Such as, can you name a couple?
The fresh poultry campaign, that is that wet market that we have in LA, the poultry market. We're going to start demos on that pretty soon. And I was also heavily involved through Los Angeles for Animals with the Billy campaign.
Yes.
We were doing all of those protests at the zoo for the last couple of years. And we, of course, worked with Kirsten Custer on those. Lola Kay and I we worked with Kirsten on those. That campaign is moving into a different phase right now. We're focusing more on getting the city council to move forward and things like that. So the protests, I don't know what will happen to the protests at the zoo right now. They're not happening right now, and they won't be for a while if they go forward.
Well, it'd be nice to have you and Kirsten on when things do start back, or when you guys have some more to report on that. Now,
Kirsten is an incredible spokesperson for Billy. Yes.
It is indeed. David, why don't you give a little bit of your background for us and how you got involved in Arts for Animals' Sake?
Sure.
You're a founder, right?
I was a founder. I started it in Seattle. Basically, my long story short was that I was a photographer doing photojournalism for years and years and years, and I got interested in animal issues and started working in an animal rescue where they rescued dogs and cats and then factory farmed animals. And what really changed me my entire life was when a calf came in that had fallen off probably the back of a truck that was going to slaughter. And this male calf was like a big old dog. I would go out into the field and have lunch with him, and he would run around with me and treated me just like a friend. And that was my instant moment where I went vegan, when I realized that this calf was a product of the milk industry, and then the whole thing started to topple for me, where I couldn't ever eat meat again. So it was a long progress, but it got me to the point where I wanted people to realize that there's an emotional life for every animal, that we all want to survive. And it brought me to Los Angeles, and I started doing Art for Animals' Sake in Los Angeles, where there's a very fertile ground for activism. And I met Cory and several other activists, and we just all started to work together, and we realized that there are bigger issues and more voices to be put together. And for some reason, animals in laboratories really resonated with me. The idea that a good friend of mine said that worked in Sea Shepherd said that at least factory farmed animals get to die at some point. The laboratory animals don't get to die. And that really resonated with me, especially the monkeys. And one of my little, passions is rats and rodents that aren't even recognized under the Animal Welfare Act. All of these animals have such a vivid and intense emotional and emotional life and social life. And these animals that are in labs are stripped of all of their individuality. So therefore, it's just heartbreaking, and it's a difficult subject to talk about, and it's a difficult subject to talk about to people that say that there are benefits to research in laboratories, but we have to recognize these animals as individuals, and how would we feel if we were stripped of our individuality for somebody else's benefit? So that's how I got kind of hooked up with Cory, and me and her have been working together quite a long time. And what Cory has failed to say is that she's active in homeless rights. She's active in Black Lives Matter, with any type of social issue she's involved with. She's somebody that I look to get involved with more issues, and so she left that out. But she's on the streets every day, speaking up for somebody. So.
Okay, well, we'll get into that more later. I want to hear all about that, but let's watch a video about Britches. Now, Britches is actually the reason that you guys started. So can you just quickly, because we want to get into some videos, let's play the video first, and then I'll have you explain. Wow, that's so incredible. Do you want to, Cory, just explain a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the video? I want to just do an intro about how you guys got into the art show, doing this art show because of Britches.
Right. We've done 3 art shows. Well, this would have been our third art show, the one that is on hold right now. And they've all centered around Britches. So Britches is the inspiration for our shows, the legacy of Britches. And we chose Britches because he was such a graphic example of the egregious nature of animal experimentation. And there's such powerful images of Britches, and the research done on him was so useless, so unnecessary, and so graphically wrong. It didn't further science in any way at all. And what we wanted to do was, we felt that art, as we could use the medium of art to bring those images to a broader public. I mean, one thing about animal experimentation is that you have a very limited number of videos or images, because the is cloaked in secrecy. They don't want photographers in. They don't want people taking pictures of the victims. So what you can do is you can take the existing videos, the existing photographs, and make other things of them. And for instance, the video you just, Frankie, my kitty.
They do love the video.
You can take those powerful images and explore them even more. So we wanted to allow local artists. In the first show, we had artists from as far away as Saudi Arabia participating.
Wow.
But we wanted to take existing images or just the idea of animal experimentation and allow artists to to interpret those. Britches himself was in the minority in that he was rescued, and he lived out his life as a happy monkey. He was adopted by a mother, a monkey mother, but all of the ones who are nameless in labs, who live, and as David pointed out, often don't die in labs, or they die after years and years and years of torment. In fact, one of the monkeys that is on the, well, I'll get into that more, but one of the monkeys on the list that we made the 16 monkeys, that we based the 16 monkeys on, has been alive for about 30 years and the entire time in a lab.
Oh,
in labs, and now in one of the worst labs.
oh my gosh. David, did you want to add anything before we play the video?
Yeah, it's just that's Britch's story is just so heartbreaking when you think that these animals have such a rich connection with others, and their social lives are everything to them. And Britch's is especially sad because he was intentionally stripped of all of his social ties of his mother, and I actually spoke to somebody who was there, who will remain nameless, but they listened to what Britch's was being tormented by, this sound, and he said he couldn't take it for a second, and this baby monkey had it on his head for weeks, if not months. It just seems senseless. You know, I don't agree with testing on animals, but there obviously has been some testing that has brought results. But to see a senseless, awful, sadistic experiment like that happen to such an innocent being is just, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So yeah, he was the catalyst for us to want to do something, but do something creative and do something that maybe brings a little bit of light into a really dark subject.
Let's take a look at it.
Monkeys in labs. Where are they and who are they? In late 2019, documents from a Freedom of Information Act request made by the New England Antivivisection Society were sent to our group, Progress for Science. They revealed the number of non-human primates being held in the labs of the University of California at Los Angeles. A list shows that there are 16 monkeys, all rhesus macaques. The identification numbers of each one, along with their genders, dates of birth, arrival dates, and the places they came from, are indicated in this document. The last 4 monkeys arrived on November 15, 2019. The information does not include what experiments the monkeys are or will be subjected to.
I'm sorry, I had to replace the music for copyright reasons and the sound was too loud. That's my fault. But you can, Cory, you wanted to say something. Why don't you go ahead? And I'm going to play the next
So the
clip.
video is, I just wanted to say that it's based on this document, FOIA request document, that we obtained from the New England Anti-Vivisection Society, who does amazing work. Go on Facebook, follow them. So it's a list of the 16 monkeys that were being held in the labs of UCLA as of the end of 2019. And because the last, I think, 4 monkeys arrived in November 2019, we realized that this probably was an ongoing purchase or transfer of monkeys and that there would be more monkeys coming. But at the time we received that list, there were only 16. Unfortunately, the numbers that are now listed on the USDA site have 27 monkeys at UCLA right now. So there are more.
Oh my gosh. Let's watch
Anyway,
another.
we wanted to, because we had information on each of these monkeys, their date of birth, where they were from, the lab that they came from, etc. We had this limited amount of information, but it made each of them real. So we gave each of our 16 artists that we contacted, we gave them one monkey, and we asked them to think about that one monkey while they did their work. And we gave them a photograph of a particular rhesus macaque monkey to use as a guide. So there's a similarity between all the portraits, but then there's the individual expression of the artist's feelings about that. And that monkey that we used for the inspiration is also the monkey that we use for the Progress for Science logo and all our 5 posters that we
Let's
changed.
watch the next clip.
To acknowledge them as individuals, we decided to honor each of them in art. We gave 16 artists, both amateur and professional, the information about an individual monkey and asked them to create his or her portrait. Since we don't have pictures of any of the 16, we asked our artists to base their portraits on this photograph of a macaque monkey. We know nothing about this monkey, whether they are young or old, male or female, happy or sad, in captivity or free. We do know that looking into their eyes, we see someone looking back at us, someone with thoughts and dreams, with ideas and opinions, with loves and hates, with a life all their own and no one else's.
Wow. So this next clip are the actual portraits. Let's play that. And then I also have singles of each of yours because I'd like you guys to talk a little bit more about the whole process of it. So let's just do this one. Oops. Sorry about that. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So because so what happened was that we decided to do a third anti-vivisection show based on the legacy of riches. And again, we wanted to have it during World Week for Animals in Lab as part of Progress for Science's Days of Action. And we do things like freeway light, where we light up one of the LA freeways with things like UCLA kills animals. Another of our actions was to have a dog walk through UCLA. We did one last year, and it was hugely popular. People really responded well to that. And more than that, the people on the ground that we passed at UCLA responded. They don't respond so well to activists chanting through, but dogs wearing signs they love. So we really liked that. But then we also wanted to do the art show. Of course, because of the pandemic, we had to put that on hold. We have a lot of art in our possession now, and art that is promised. So we do have a show waiting. But one thing that I did as part of that show was that I contacted the 16 artists and asked them to do these 16 monkeys. Now we got a great response on that, and we were able to get all 16 images. So I said to David, perfect, we can do a video of this. And David, of course, was all over this. You know, he was like very excited about this. And so he was back in Massachusetts by that time with his family. And so we just did it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I wrote a script for it, and he edited it all, put it together really with a beautiful flair. We use the music that we use has no copyright, so that was in the public domain, but it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah. Everyone must go see watch the video. We have the link in the comments.
And we also, I asked one of the Progress for Science organizers, one of the other organizers, Jill Mulatto, to do the narration, and she was great. I love that. And also another thing, we got protest photographs from Michael Torres, who is a contributor to Progress for Science in many ways through art and just help. And those photographs we really like. And he's really an amazing activist who works extensively with the Shower of Hope, which is a program here in LA that provides showers to homeless people. He provides vegan meals for that. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but this is a picture of your, the actual portrait that you did. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us a little bit about your process on this and so forth? Like how you came about coming up with this idea and the whole experience, whatever you want to share.
Okay, so as I said, at the beginning of this project, I decided that we would use the one photograph of the monkey that we use for Progress for Science. And one of the reasons I did that is because the monkey in that photograph is so there. When you look at that monkey, you can see directly into their eyes, and that monkey, you feel like that monkey is looking back at you. So over the years that we've had this photograph as our logo, I've always felt a connection with that monkey, whoever that monkey is. So that's why I wanted to use him or her. But while I was painting it, you know, obviously I'm connecting in my mind with the monkey that was mine at UCLA, the one that I chose, and their situation. And I tried to, because of that, I tried to more focus on the eyes, and that I'm looking into this monkey's eyes, and I'm feeling that this monkey looks back. Yeah, BH41 is the monkey's number. So I think when you're painting an animal like this or another person like this, who is in a really tragic situation, that you can't help but invest some of that tragedy into that image. And to me, when I look at that image, even though I used more colors than the monkey in real life has. I mean, the real monkey's not purple and red. Right. But I think there's a sadness about this monkey. And there's also kind of a not knowing, like, why is this happening? So kind of a confusion to this monkey, like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So this monkey is special to me. And I think this monkey became special to every artist that worked on this project. Each individual monkey became special for them. And like, we're sitting here, I'm sitting in this chair, I'm sitting in my home, and I know that this monkey is in this world right now, suffering.
Yeah. David, what would you like to add?
Well, when we were going through the list to choose our specific monkey, I chose the one that had been in captivity the longest, or was the oldest monkey. And being a photographer, I love photography history. And I was inspired by these old Soviet photographs of prisoners and the prison tattoos. And that was sort of my inspiration. And so I wanted a jaggedness, I wanted a roughness to it. And I wanted the idea that either through self-mutilation or through that a lot of lab animals, they do to themselves just for lack of socialization and that sort of thing, that my monkey just had a roughness and sort of a jaggedness to him. And so the scratch marks on the wall are supposed to be indications of all the days of years and years and years of captivity, and tattoos are just supposed to be the signals of like a life lived in captivity and not knowing where, and all obviously thinking that this individual is going to die behind bars. So it has a roughness to it. It has a color selection that's very muted. And so I just wanted it to have that kind of feeling that this monkey's been there forever and probably will never be anywhere else, and that sense of hopelessness. It's just, I think Cory's exactly right. When all these monkeys started to come in from all the different artists, like, we couldn't believe the different styles and the different takes on them, and how everybody invested so much in the way that they portrayed their monkey. And some people with very strong sense of style obviously impose that on their artwork. But we just can't wait until this is an art show where you can see these portraits really close up and have a one-on-one experience with each portrait, because they're all just so beautiful in their own way, even though some of them might be more harrowing. Like, mine's not necessarily a beautiful picture, but it represents an individual that otherwise would not have its own individual representation to the world. So it was just incredible to see that. Like, there's one, Cory, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the artist that did the sequins or whatever, and it's just absolutely.
That's my sister-in-law, Nancy Floyd.
Yeah, and it's just like the way people represented something awful and made them beautiful. Like, Cory's photograph is absolutely gorgeous. It's just like people's paintings are so, like, in everybody else's style, is just so beautifully representing an individual. And so it was just, we're going to do things like this in the future, because it just is so insightful to see how people interpret different subject matter. And it's just exactly what we wanted. We wanted people to put themselves into this portrait and become somehow connected to their artwork, which of course they would be anyway, but just see this subject in so many different ways and interpret it in so many different ways is just amazing. So we couldn't do it in the video. Obviously, it would have been an hour-long video to like be so intimate with each picture. But hopefully, when our show gets put up, whenever that is, when the world comes back to normal, you'll have a chance to see that, and we'll probably have a collection of even more portraits at that point.
That's fantastic. I can't wait. And
yeah, I want to say one other thing about David's portrait. So we put, so after the video is out, daily I put one of the portraits up on Progress's Instagram account. And when we reached David's portrait on that day, we had a response from Madeline Krasno, who is an animal rights activist, but she 10 years ago worked in the lab that David's monkey was in before coming to UCLA. So when she saw that portrait and read where the monkey came from, she went, oh my God, I knew that monkey. She was a student then, and it was a life-changing event, a traumatic event for her to be in that situation. But what she wrote, so she ran it as a story on Instagram, and she wrote, this was a difficult individual to read about, mostly because there is a 50% chance I knew him, cared for him. There are 2 primate labs at UW-Madison, and this is how we referred to monkeys. 2 letters, 2 numbers. I remember some of the monkeys were my age when I started working. There as a college student. God, I feel sick. So then as each day came and a new monkey was put up on IG, she responded saying what her memories of these monkeys were. And for me to read this and go, oh my God, not only do we have this data on each of these monkeys, like date of birth, etc., but now we know people that knew these monkeys. So it was like this incredible connection. And Maddie was also contacted because of this by another person that worked in the lab, who also commented on who these monkeys were, her memory of them.
so are you hoping to use this video to further try to identify the monkeys and build the campaign off of this? Is that your intent?
Well, the New England Anti-Vivisection Society is continuing to do their FOIA requests on these monkeys. And yes, this video, these portraits, this information that we have, the information that we got from Maddie, etc. Yes, these things will be in our ongoing campaign concerning the vivisection that goes on in the labs of UCLA. Definitely. This is powerful stuff.
Yeah. I want to show a couple of clips of the protest, and then I'm going to give you each some time at the end to go over some things. So let's jump into that, because actually we've got about 20 minutes left.
Chancellor Jean Block!
Chancellor Jean Block!
UCLA administrators!
UCLA administrators!
UCLA staff!
UCLA staff!
UCLA students!
UCLA students!
We come in peace!
We come in peace!
We come demanding peace!
We come demanding peace!
Peace for the animals!
Peace for the animals!
Locked in your labs!
Locked in your labs!
Stuffed with drugs!
Stuffed with drugs!
Veins full of poison!
Veins full of poison!
Treated like tools!
Treated like tools!
Treated like garbage!
Treated like garbage!
I've got one more here. Let me play one more.
We come in peace!
We come in peace!
For the lab technicians!
For the lab technicians!
Racked by guilt!
Racked by guilt!
Forced to kill innocent beings!
Forced to kill innocent beings!
To pay their rent!
To pay their rent!
To feed their families.
To feed their families.
We come in peace.
We come in peace.
Peace for the patients.
Peace for the patients.
Lying awake at night.
Lying awake at night.
Devastated by broken promises.
Devastated by broken promises.
Of your false science.
This gentleman has been following. Are you with the administration, sir?
I'm with UCLA.
Yes, you're with UCLA. Okay. Do they have any statement on this?
Well, I'm not the person that would make that statement. So,
Okay. Well,
with the
please
public
let them
relations
know they're
person.
invited on JaneUnChained.com anytime, and we'd love to get their side and ask them for some information about the number of animals and the kinds of experiments.
Okay.
Thank you. So here's another Neuroscience Institute, and the demonstrators are arriving.
Animal liberation!
And these images tell the story. They tell the story. Skip past you.
How many animals died today?
The idea is to also send a message to the students who may be considering going into some kind of line of work that involves animal experimentation.
Stop the pain!
UCLA is to blame!
UCLA has blood on their hands!
Cory Mac, Progress for Science, outside the Chancellor's office at UCLA, delivering a monologue that was echoed by more than 100 demonstrators here who are sending the exact same message. And let's back up to show what they're saying. UCLA tortures animals. We invite anyone from UCLA and the Chancellor's office or any scientist at UCLA to respond to the criticisms and the charges that animal experimentation, which definitely occurs here at UCLA, is fake science, it's bad science, it's holding back medical progress.
Okay, and I just want to, before, Cory, I'm going to let you talk. I just want to reiterate, that was Jane, of course, of Jane Unchained. We do invite UCLA on at any time, or any representatives of UCLA to tell their side of the story. Go ahead, Cory. It's all yours.
So anyway, that was a couple of years ago at UCLA with the annual World Week for Animals and Labs demo that we did. It was a really incredible one. We marched around, and the activists were really in good voice that day, and it was amazing standing in front of the Chancellor's building and everyone in back of me repeating the words that I was saying, and sort of the sound hitting that building. Just because of the acoustics of it, it was really good, because everyone in the building, they couldn't ignore what was happening. It was a good one. In the future, I think we'd like to continue with different sorts of World Week for Animals and Labs events that are not marches through LA, or different kinds of marches through LA, because as it stands now, the UCLA requires a police permit, which has never sat well with me. It's like, I think the present Black Lives Matter protests are really a good example. You don't ask the police when you want to protest. And I don't feel comfortable about asking the authorities of UCLA if I can protest them, and then pay them money to do that. So anyway, we'll figure it out as we move forward.
David, did you want to add anything in here for?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's so good to see so many familiar faces in there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to point out that when you see a crowd like that, and a peaceful protest like that, like you have to recognize that there are people from all walks of life that are representing and trying to speak up for these animals, that it's not just a few of us that are extremely passionate about it. There's people that come from every background and every walk of life that have just somehow seen or felt compassion for these animals. And I think Cory's probably a better person to talk about this, but you know, there has been some scientific furtherment with, you know, these experiments. However, the animals never had a say. The animals never had a, you know, the given the permission to have their autonomy taken away. And as medicine and scientific research evolved, there's so many alternatives.
Exactly. That's what I was going to add. There are much of the testing from what I was listening to, just sorry to cut in, but I was listening to some reports from Neves, and they were saying that 90% of the testing on animals that succeeds in animals fails in humans. So that perhaps, you know, there was some good some good results, if you want to call it that, but now we've moved on and there are alternatives. There's really no reason for it. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in there, but go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. That's a whole field now in science, and is investigating ways that we don't have to use animals, which are an incredibly unproductive and inefficient and expensive way of scientific inquiry. And besides, using other people's lives and taking those lives, which is not justifiable. And mostly where it fails, animal research fails, is when drugs are involved, when you're experimenting on animals, like giving them drugs and seeing what kind of reaction they have. Well, there's so many stories of when that doesn't work, when it doesn't, and you don't know, you know, if this drug is okay for a mouse and then you give it to a human and the human, you know, dies or has horrible side effects. So drugs have always been really problematic. And a lot of the research that was being done at UCLA centered around things like nicotine and meth addiction, which, you know, addict a monkey to meth and see what happens. Well, come on, please. You know, monkeys are not people with people's concerns. They're not humans with the concerns of human lives and why they do drugs,
now, you saw that in the FOIA reports that they were doing those tests. Because we do want to invite UCLA on at any time to.
Well,
we don't want to just say stuff that we don't know.
Researchers that were working on that. One researcher no longer works on animals, so we stopped that campaign. And the other researcher moved to a New York university. So we do not have that campaign going anymore. Yeah. The researcher that we have a campaign centered around now is not a drug research campaign. So it's a different whole ball game.
I see. Okay, great. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So I want to give you each, David, I'll let you go first, and then Cory, you can wrap it up. Anything you want to talk about, actionable things people can do? What's your advice? How can we help?
Well, I think just getting involved and actually, asking beyond the label, like what products, what things are being manufactured that actually had animal testing involved. It's amazing. Almost everything we touch is been tested on animals, whether it's medication or, any kind of fabric or whatever. And there's been huge strides to try to cut back on animals being used in experimentation, but there's still record numbers of them being used. And like Cory said, a lot of it is for frivolous and or repetitive studies. The university I went to, just recently spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to expand its animal experimentation labs when there are scientific models that are so much more accurate and don't. We should be putting our money into ways of taking the animals out of this system, not putting more in. So asking questions, raising awareness, a lot of people just don't want to hear it. And I get that. And, my family's dealt with so many illnesses. My family's dealt with cancer. I understand the passion behind it. And of course, we want all of our human relatives to be safe and cured. It's the waste and it's the repetitiveness of, it's an industry like anything else. So the research industry wants to, like any other industry, wants to keep its funding. And so just questioning, just getting it out there and questioning why are we using other beings for our own purposes? And is it necessary? It's just, just keeping quiet about it is just not the answer. We need to keep educating ourselves. So that's why we do have things in our arsenal, like FOIA requests, where you can request that we know what goes on behind the walls. We know what goes on behind the doors. And just asking a lot of questions, and we can just be really kind about it. We don't need to. That's why Cory's Speak Out said, we are not against workers. We are not against the students. We are just against the practice and why it keeps going on forever and ever and ever. So just being inquisitive does not mean that you are anti-science or that you're anti-people. It's just, it's heartbreaking to know that this stuff is still going on. And a lot of it is repetitive, and a lot of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy where every year they get another grant. So they just continue the same process over and over again.
And there are other alternatives for sure. Cory, go ahead. Your turn.
So, yeah, I think I, of course, agree with everything that David has said. We need to keep out on the streets. We need to keep informing ourselves. We need to keep letting other people know what is happening. I think one thing about animal experimentation that's difficult is that we're predominantly not scientists. There are many scientists who are working against the practice of animal experimentation, who do realize that it's wrong and who are searching for alternatives. That's a huge field right now. But for the average activist, it's hard to be fully informed about what is going on. And so I think that one of the key things that we must always concentrate on is not whether or not this, what is being done progresses science, even though that's hugely problematic, but our core belief, our core reason to be out there has to be that these are individuals, that these are lives, that these are autonomous creatures, that they own themselves. No one else can own them. That in a just world, we wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be doing this to other humans, or we shouldn't, even though we have. But we should respect the autonomy of all life, that this is wrong, to take another person's life for our own ends, to take another life for monetary ends, for prestige, for all of the reasons that it is done. And, at the end of the day, it makes scientific sense. If you get rid of the waste of animal experimentation, then you progress science much more. But that core belief in animals, self-autonomy, should really be the guiding idea for our activism. Most people, not most, but many people understand that animal lives are important. What we have to do is make them understand that those animals behind bars in labs are part of that community of animals who are important. And then lastly, I want to say that we live in a really, really, really strange time. There are so many issues right now, especially we're seeing in the past few weeks of people all over the country rising up against a particular form of oppression, a particular form of abuse of people that has been going on for centuries now. And it's like finally a lot of people are going, heck no. And I think even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, I think we need to still be very aware that we need people on the streets, that we're living in a society that does not offer the same rights, that does not offer the same privileges, that does not offer the same degree of care and safety for a large percentage of our population. Black people in this country overwhelmingly are subjected to police abuse, to bad educational systems, to bad health care, to inadequate food systems, etc. And I think as activists, I think we need to be aware that a lot of this is all tied together. I mean, when we talk about the animal experimentation industry, we're talking about capitalism. We're talking about using other lives for profit. And that directly ties into human rights as well. So when we look deeper at animals in farms and animals in zoos, animals in labs, we're talking about capitalism. When we talk about people in prisons nowadays, we're talking about capitalism, private prisons. It's all linked. So
that a little bit more, that when we're talking about what you just said about jail and capitalism, because they're run by private organizations, you feel that explain that just a little bit more?
Well, the private prison industry is becoming huge. A lot of the a lot of prisons in this country are now being run by private entities, private corporations. This also applies to immigrants coming into this country who are being detained. They're being detained in facilities that are privately run. So a large push to jail immigrants, to jail people. There are people who have monetary interests in all of this. So they don't want police to stop arresting people, Black people on the streets. They want more drug laws that will affect those people. They want more gang laws, etc. Excuse me, because they want those people in those facilities. They want them in those places that will make them money. So the government, instead of running these places, hands them off to private enterprise, capitalism. And things like the homeless population in this country and in our city is huge. Because, property and homes, that's all part of the capitalist system. So you make, instead of people being guaranteed a place to live, birds don't ask to pay rent, and squirrels don't pay rent. Why are people, if they don't have the money, why are they forced to live on the street? It's capitalism.
That's a good question, Cory. We do have to wrap it up, though. However,
So anyway, I'd say keep involved in animal rights, and then keep involved in other issues.
Yeah, David, do you have any words you want to say just before we wrap up? And then Cory, I'll let you summarize. Go ahead, David.
No, I just think that thank you for having these discussions. Obviously, they are like the root of a lot of different issues. And I think what Cory said is, as far as like all of these issues are intermingled, and it's just there's too many to deal with. But the more people that get involved, the more the better, right? So
Yeah.
keep making beautiful things and keep dealing with the hard subjects. And I'll end it on that.
Okay, Cory, we're out of time, but go ahead. Last word.
Okay, so if you want to learn more about the Progress for Science campaign, go to our website. If you go for progressforscience.com blog, you'll see the latest blog that deals with the vivisector that we are building a campaign around right now. And as for other campaigns, I've mentioned one that provides shower services for homeless people on the streets of LA. This is called the Shower of Hope. Go on their Facebook page. They have shower facilities, mobile shower facilities around the city. If you want to volunteer for them, or if you want, like my friend Michael says, if you want to provide vegan food to serve to people who are taking advantage of these free showers for people living on the street. That's Shower of Hope. So 2 things, go to our blog and our Facebook page and look for Shower of Hope. Those are 2 things for humans and for animals.
Thank you, Cory.
And thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. And we do have all those links in the comments for people if
Great.
they want them. They're right there. Okay, folks, we're going to say goodbye for now. And I'd love to have you guys on again when you come up with your next step. And thank you for being on, everyone. Catch you later.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.